And this is why the reformist ideology, the Reformation, was so threatening to the rulers in Europe. You had Mosse preaching for the demolishing of all social hierarchy. You have Protestants who, even though they were elitist, even though they were anti-democratic, still preached a message of returning to the church, the early community. And their ideas of what this early church community were the idea that the early church community was democratic. The early church community recognized the importance of each individual to society. And the early church community recognized no political ruler as the leader. And so even though you had elitist, anti-democratic people promoting the Protestant Reformation, it was still extremely threatening to the order. And you could see this in the fact that most, if not all, democracies that exist were always born out of war. The point is that these ideas should not have been so threatening. After all, the Catholic Church maintained that they were the guardian of Christ's message, of the original purpose of Christianity. Yet we could see how scared religious authorities were, particularly in one of the most well-known to cultural historians cases of victimization from the intolerance of the Catholic Church. I'm talking about the 16th century Italian miller from the small Italian village of Montereale, Valgellina. He was known as Domenico Scandella, also known as Menocchio. We only know the story of Menocchio from inquisitorial documents. The legal case surrounding his trial reveals to us the changing worldview that the Protestant Reformation created, along with the fears of religious authorities. And you could see this with the founding of the Roman Inquisition in the 1540s. Pope Paul III founded the Inquisition to root out the reformist ideas from taking hold, and Menocchio was an example of these ideas taking hold. Menocchio was influenced by the spread of books from the newly invented printing press. Moreover, the Protestant Reformation gave Menocchio the self-confidence and courage to express his criticisms against the Catholic Church. Now, when the inquisitors are interrogating Menocchio, Menocchio finally reveals his religious beliefs, his idea of how the world works. Under his interrogators, Menocchio said, quote, "In my opinion, all was chaos. That is, earth, air, water, and fire were mixed together. And out of that bulk, a mass formed, just as cheese is made out of milk, and worms appeared in it. And these were the angels. The most holy majesty decreed that these should be God and the angels. And among that number of angels, there was also God, he too having been created out of the mass at the same time." Now, Menocchio's worldview was essentially that of spontaneous generation, that the angels came out of nowhere, just as worms and cheese. Now, the Catholic Church in the 1540s believed itself to be besieged by heretics from outside and from within, so the idea of spontaneous generation, that the earth and angels and God just were created out of nowhere, was heresy to them. For the Inquisition, God created everything. End of story. There was more to it. Menocchio also reiterated the most revolutionary critiques against the Catholic Church, the same critiques which motivated the peasants in Germany to rise up. Menocchio criticized the use of Latin, believing it was unfair to the people. The normal people didn't understand Latin. It was only the elite, the priests and lawyers, who understood Latin. So whenever the normal people were in legal trouble, they had no idea of the charges being laid out against them. And in order for them to defend themselves, they would have to do it in Latin, which they did not know. And so Menocchio believed that Latin screwed over everyone. Menocchio also did not believe in confession. He believed that what good is it to confess to a priest? You might as well confess to a rock or a tree. Menocchio also criticized the sale of indulgences, believing these to be products and items, not actual real things. And these indulgences were used to oppress the poor. Now, one of Menocchio's most heretical ideas was that of religious toleration. Now, Menocchio considered himself to be a legitimate Catholic. However, he only argued that he believed the Catholic God was the true God because he was born and raised in a Catholic society. And he told this to the inquisitors. And furthermore, he said to the inquisitors, if I was born in the Ottoman Empire, then I would believe the Islamic God, the Islamic faith, is the true and natural faith. And so for the Inquisition, these ideas were too much. They were too radical. And for these beliefs, Menocchio was eventually burned at the stake by the Inquisition.